Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central. CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And, well, if you checked out our video from, yesterday, 2.5 hours, our longest video yet that we've ever released. We had 5 teams that we covered. We were going to do just 4 teams today. But a lot of intelligent talk in that, a lot of not intelligent talk in that. And hopefully Rick doesn't crash out of the call like he did just 30 seconds ago. Twice, which has made us have to do multiple takes at this. Rick, is there anything general you want to say, or do we get right into it? We're going west to east.
So, in other words, Ontario to Quebec, for those non-geographic people.
For the non-geographic.
I say let's just start, just jump right in.
For those people that thought Quebec was west of Ontario.
People may have thought we're doing Western Canada. You never know.
So, we're starting with the Ticats. Rick, this is your team. Go.
So, we going to do the same thing like we did yesterday?
Yep, quarterbacks, running backs, / fullbacks, then receivers, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, secondary. We'll talk for, a hop, skip, and a jump about the kickers and punters, but, that's about it.
Hop, skip, and a jump.
You never heard that?
So, yes, I've heard hop, skip, and a jump.
Okay, I was about to say.
So, for those people that did not see today, TSN's top 50 by the media. Bo Levi Mitchell was Nuno Trez, number 3. And Cutter's like, yo, that's the wrong language. Yes, I know.
And who's number 1? And who's
okay? That's for another day because
Brady Oliveira.
Technically, we were tied with Edmonton for 7, so we actually had 7 people on the list.
There you go.
But so we are going to start with Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback, followed by Taylor Powell. And his first name's leaving my mind because I don't like to just look at the roster. I like to look at my depth chart. Harrison Frost. So those are our quarterbacks. Hopefully Bo can return to the Bo that we had last year. Except for we can win games this year instead of Bo being Bo 300 and throwing balls and getting a bunch of yards. And meaningless games. So we're going to go over to running backs. We have Greg Bell, who took James Butler's position last season. Rest in peace, James Butler. You have gone on to bigger and better things out in BC. Backup is Mr. Johnny Augustine from Winnipeg.
Yes, and if you haven't, we have a player interview that me and my old co-host Jake did of Johnny Augustine like 2 or 3 years ago. It's a great interview, though. You should check it out. You can hear about his real estate endeavors.
And then, so, Andre Milinovich-Litre played running back last year, but he's switching to fullback and short yardage still this year. Here comes the bread and butter. Our receiving core. Which some people don't like to say, but I don't care what anyone says. I don't know. There's people out there that says that Hamilton's going to do crap this year. Bo's overrated. Well, you know what? I don't care what anyone says. We have one of the top 4 receiving cores in the league.
I'd agree with that.
Starting with Shamar Bridges. Let me go to my depth chart because then I can. At the X, we have Kenny Lawler, who came over. 8 people that came over, if not 10, from Winnipeg.
Yeah, the Hamilton Tie Bombers are going to potentially have a pretty good season this year. I'm calling them that the entire year. Seriously, stick a bomber in front of the Ticat on the logo. The Bombers have relocated apparently, and Hamilton was the destination.
We can have our mascot drive your guys' your bomber plane on the field.
There you go.
And then
actually, hold on a second. I gotta cut in there because there's news in Winnipeg regarding the bomber plane. I forgot to mention in any of my videos. They finally repainted it to the new bomber colors and not the old early 2000s bomber colors.
Oh.
It's been like the Milt Stiegel era bomber colors for the past like 15 years. So they finally updated that. Sorry, I had to mention.
That's okay. So the slot back just to the right of the X is the Y, and that's Tim White and Isaiah Wooden, who will at least get 6 games as the returner since Lawrence Woods is on the 6th game.
Yep.
At the I gotta look up because I don't have the first names on the actual roster. So you have Brendan Bordner as a left tackle. You have Brandon Revenberg, who was ranked number 35 in the league of the top 50 players. And behind them is draft pick Irvin Hassini, 21, 6'4", 310 out of UBC. From there, we go to center Woodmansey, who was right guard last year, but with David Beard going to Edmonton, he is now our center with Nathaniel Dublin-Dugay as the backup center. Yet another bomber, Liam Dobson, as our right guard.
Former bomber first-round draft pick.
Stop mentioning bombers. And then right tackle, we have Jordan Murray with Quentin Barrow. So we are going tackles, Americans, both guards, and the center, Canadians. We have Giovanni Robinson and former linebacker changed to fullback, Daniel Bell, Canadian, as Leachtree's backups. The R, which is the slot back just beside on the right of the right tackle, is Keandre Smith and Taylor Ternowski. The W, which is to the right of that, is 2 more former Bombers, and Brendan O'Leary Orange and Drew Wolotarski.
Also, for Drew Wolotarski, you guys. I had so many. You know, I had so many title names of videos I was going to use for him. So if Drew Wolotarski just went off and had a career game, I was going to call the video Guitar Hero, because he's the guitar hero. Besides maybe Willie Jefferson. Willie Jefferson rocks the air guitar though, whereas Wolotarski rocks a nice acoustic guitar.
The Z receiver, which is on.
Rick, you're in Canada. You say Zed.
Okay, well, it's still
Rick,
the same.
We're in a trade war.
Listen, when you deal with Americans every day, you start to sound like American.
Keep going. I'm busting your balls. You're good.
So that's Shamar Bridges. And then kicker, another former Bomber many years ago, Mark Leggio.
We don't claim him. He wasn't nice to us.
Our punter is Nick Constantinu. And then according to Carter, number 58, that he's sporting
the Mr. greatest Ticat of all time.
On the defensive end, if your offensive line's looking at the defense, we have Julian Hauser and Isaiah Bagna as our 2 defensive ends on the left. Nathan Sales is the only nose tackle.
Whoa. Who the hell is Nathan Sales? Are you talking about Casey Sales?
Casey Sales. My apologies, Casey Sales.
Former Bomber, not from like a few years ago, but he's basically more of a Ticat than he was a Bomber, but hey, I'm still holding on.
Then you have another former Bomber and another interview of the channel.
Yes.
Mr. Miles Fox.
You should check out that interview. It's actually a great interview. What a nice fellow. Nice good
Every time
chap.
we have an interview, Carter's going to just plug it in.
Plug the video. Shameless plug must interrupt Rick.
And then we have Mario Kendricks Jr.
It's a good video though. This is like, if you want to learn more about these players and the guys you're getting, it's good stuff.
That's true, because I'm pretty sure we interviewed Fox, no?
Yes, we did.
Yes, I was there for that one.
Yes. Yeah, no, that was one that we did just, it hasn't even been a year yet.
Last
like,
summer.
that was one of the more recent ones.
Yeah. And then behind Fox is Mario Kendricks. And then two more former Bombers on the other defensive end. Tyjon Garbutt.
Just plan the fucking parade already.
And Owen Huberts. Oh, but yet we have one more.
I have a question. Is this Scott Milanovich's like idea to like learn the freaking Mike O'Shea playbook? Is just to steal all of his talent and hope they have enough memories of the playbook that he can piece it together?
I mean, that's what happens when you hire the assistant GM Ted Gouveia from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Linebackers, on the weak side linebackers, we have Ray Wilburn. Yet another former Bomber, Mr.
We need like a soundbite of that because you keep saying it so much. Like
Brian Cole, the second.
Oh, I just thought of Rick for these videos. I got to get a soundboard for these videos. Have like an air horn go off whenever you say something. Like
And then the third weak side linebacker, we have Trevor Hoyt, who I met his parents last year, and they're very, very nice people.
That's a fun fact.
I'm sorry. In my section, the section over is where the player's family sits.
No, that's all good. No, I'm just saying that is a fun fact.
Kyle Wilson will lead the middle linebackers until we see the official depth chart. Followed up by Ryan Baker and Devin Versuk. Former Alouette and Reggie Stubblefield. Former linebacker from the Calgary Stampeders, Brendan Dozier. And then we have Robert Panabaker and rookie Quavan White. And then we have, finishing out the secondary, Jamal Peters, Dustin Talbert, the safety Stavros Katratonis, and Mac Bainati.
Bannatyne?
And then we also have Patrick
Bannatyne?
Burke.
Do you mean Bannatyne? Yeah.
And then a former Argo, yours truly, Argo Suck, as he would write, much love, Deshaun Amos. And then Jonathan Moxley, not the AEW Jonathan Moxley, but the CFL Jonathan Moxley.
Well,
and then
Moxley.
Oh yeah, that's true. And then Sherryman Begago is the other corner.
Actually, you want to talk about AEW guys? Who's the guy suspended?
Oh, that is former NFL player Marquise Copeland.
If only it was Adam Copeland. Edge.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we have.
Can you imagine that? Like Adam Copeland as a middle linebacker and taking a spear from Edge in a football game?
I mean, Roman Reigns was a defensive end for the Elks.
This is true. Yes, back when they were the Eskimos. That's right. Hold on. Wait, I have a question. Roman Reigns played for the Edmonton Eskimos. Dwayne Johnson played for the Calgary Stampeders. Is the CFL Battle of Alberta going to finally give us the WrestleMania match we've all wanted? Is that going to be the build-up? Is that going to be the storyline? That would be incredible.
True. And then Luke Brubaker and Lawrence Woods II are on the 6th game.
There you go. Also, I love the way that you put together this depth chart, Rick, where you have 23 Americans, 24 Canadians, 2 globals, 3 quarterbacks. Like quarterback means they're from another planet. So they're not from Canada. They're not from America. They're not from global. They're from another planet.
I am going to answer that. So if you read the ratio rules, quarterbacks are not Americans, nor are they considered Canadians. They don't fall into those when it comes to the ratio. That's why I put quarterbacks in their own column.
I thought you were saying that they were just not from Earth and they're from Mexico? This new planet called Quarterback. Hailing from parts unknown. Oh my.
Do you have any thoughts, my friends?
No. I mean, you pretty much covered mostly, if not all of it.
So
do you want to go
my
through
question
any of your
is,
cuts or no?
I mean, the only one that I'm surprised I got cut was Quantez Knight, because I mean he did really well in the preseason, but
yeah, there's a couple names I recognize. The big bucks make the dumb decisions. that they brought over Josh Johnson. If he made the team, you would have had another bomber on.
He is on our practice squad.
Then why is he under cuts and not under practice squad?
Because there's two Johnsons.
Okay. So
if you see under practice squad, it says wide receiver.
Okay, I see that. Okay.
The one over on cuts was middle linebacker.
Gotcha.
And so that's another former Bomber. And the other former Bomber, Kyle Sampson, is also on the practice squad.
Yes. And then I see you also, not former Bomber, but you guys cut Hakuna Vanu.
Yeah. So. It's funny because when you say we should get sound cuts every time Lawler or someone does something big, that's another former Bomber.
No, we just, you know what it is? I need someone else to do a soundbite of me just going, Brady Oliveira! Or, you know what I got to do? I got to get the stadium feed from the guy going, and that's another Winnipeg Blue Bombers first down, and just use that for our live streams. You know, that'd be fun.
So are we going to go next to the funny color looking team?
Not yet.
Oh, no?
Soon.
Okay.
Soon. Because we've talked about each position individually, but we have not given a floor, we have not given a ceiling for the performance of this team.
Yes.
And I also want to look at some of the general team stats first. Is that okay?
Where did you find those yesterday?
I found these on the football database.
Oh, okay.
So it's a reliable source. So we're going to start off with the offense, okay?
Okay.
So for offense, this is team rushing offense statistics. The Hamilton Tiger Cats were 7th in the CFL. So above them was Saskatchewan, below them was Montreal. Ottawa was last with rushing offense last year, where they got an average of 86.8 yards per game for offense, rushing.
Yes.
For the passing, the Hamilton Tiger Cats were numero uno, as they had an average of 328 yards per game passing. They were number 1, just ahead of Ottawa. However, they were also the only team to have an average passing yards per game above 300, as they were at 321.0, and behind them was Ottawa with 287.3. So no one else even had 290. Ticats were above 300, but yet could not generate that into wins, unfortunately. Then going to rushing defense, the Hamilton Tiger Cats were second last, ahead of Calgary, who was dead last, but below Montreal. Hamilton would give up approximately 116.9 yards per game rushing on defense. For passing on defense, Hamilton was right in the middle. They were 5th. They were above the Red Blacks and below the Lions. The Ticats would give up 265.7 yards per game passing. That was how much their defense had given up. If you wanted, I can even give you the league-wide stats as well for kickoff return, punt return, punting, scoring, and downs, if you wanted to go through any of those.
The interesting thing is that the Ticats were also third on points per game at 27.5.
Yes.
Behind Toronto and Edmonton.
Yeah. And they also actually led the league in first downs. They got 393 first downs. First with the Edmonton Elks being just behind them. This is last year when they were like, didn't exactly have a great year in terms of wins. And in terms, but here's the problem. The amount of first downs that they gave up, they gave up the most. They were last in least amount of first downs given up. They gave up 401. They're the only team to crack 400. Whereas my Bombers were first in their defense. So just kind of a fun thing here. I'm kind of looking through these. These are fun stats here. In terms of scoring offense, the Ticats were third last year with 495 offensive points, with them getting 14 rushing touchdowns, 35 passing touchdowns, 1 punt return touchdown, 1 pick six, and then they went 43 for 48 on field goals.
That's actually not that bad.
Yep.
Only missed 5.
And you went 38 for 40 on point after on PATs.
So on the PATs, what was Mark Lego like ranked wise?
I can only see the whole team stats all together.
Okay. So
but did he kick all of yours?
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, like, team wise, like, where does that put us?
Like, it doesn't because every team kicked a different number. It doesn't give like a percentage if you're asking.
Oh, okay.
But he only missed 2. The Elks only missed 2. The Argos only missed 2. Saskatchewan didn't miss any. Montreal missed 3. BC missed 2.
You're saying that
Winnipeg
Saskatchewan didn't miss any field goals?
No, point after touchdowns.
Oh, I was gonna say
they went 39.
You can mention fucking Brent Lothar definitely missed some last year.
Yeah, he did. I can remember one that he missed. What was it? Labor Day Classic and lost the game? That one. Yeah, I remember that one. Wasn't his fault. It was like a 62-yard kick they were trying to do. And people were ripping on him like he didn't have a perfect kick to even get them the onside fucking kick. So, Anyways, but yeah, so that's just a bunch of fun stuff. So I think at this point, Rick, floor and ceiling of this team.
This I'm not gonna lie, East is harder to predict than the West.
Well, it's not even that the West is necessarily easy to predict, but there's 2 safe picks in the West that are making playoffs. In the East, I don't really know if I feel like any team is a full safe pick for anything.
So here's just hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, with Edmonton upgrading from Toronto, BC not in our video didn't really have any running backs. Do you think this could be the year, with all of the upgrades that the East has done, that we could see all 4 East teams make the playoffs?
It's possible, and I don't necessarily think it's because of a failure out west from BC or anything like that. I just think that the bottom of the West is very evenly matched. And so the problem that the West could have with that is not that they're not playing well. It's that the difference between 5th place and 3rd place in the West might be pretty close. Whoever comes last in the West might not be last by a wide margin compared to third place. And so with that margin in mind, you're stealing points from third at fifth that you wouldn't be. Even though they're still last, that third place is not going to have as many points because the bottom of the West is better compared to middle of the West. And so because of that, we could see an East crossover into the West for playoffs. It's unlikely. Crossovers in general are relatively unlikely. It's not impossible, though.
So I'm gonna say, are we doing floor first or ceiling?
Floor first.
Okay. If the Ticats have a start like they did last year, I can see them finishing last.
I agree.
Now, if, and this is a big if, because let me look at their.
Do you want to hear my floor and ceiling first, actually, or no?
Because we go Calgary, Saskatchewan, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa. So there's 4 division games right there. If we can at least do 3-3 or even 4-2 in the first 6 games, I know that's pushing it. And if this team gels as well as we have, we can finish as high as first. If we mesh as much as I'm hoping we do. It's a matter of if we can get off the ground right away or not.
I don't know if I'm quite that generous. I understand.
No, I'm just saying, potential wise, it's there.
So your floor is your floor is 4th. Your ceiling is 1.
Yes.
I understand that sentiment. For me, my floor is 4th. My ceiling is 2nd. Not that I don't think it's possible that they go that they become first. It's just it's really hard to make that drastic of a change.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like it's possible,
and there is still a lot of competition out
because
east.
you have to think about it. Okay, so just hear me out. So the reason behind my possible is Davis Alexander played 6 games last year. He wasn't a full starter. If he comes out and he doesn't swing, okay, Montreal slips down. There's been so many changes in Toronto. They got to rebuild their defense, so you don't know if their defense is going to do well. And Ottawa, they only did what 9-8-1 last year. Like, did they really make? Yeah, they added Eugene Lewis, but did they really do enough?
See,
to put
Eugene
them into
Lewis might be enough. Just Eugene Lewis. Like, that's the thing.
You could say the same thing if Kenny Lawler's healthy for the full season.
And that's the thing is that, and this is where the East is so difficult.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I think 2nd and 4th for me is fair though. I don't think I'm being cruel to Ticats fans.
I'm just saying if everything goes
I know where your argument's coming from. I'm
possible.
not discounting what you're saying at all. I totally get it. I'm just, you know what I mean? I think I'm being fair. Shall we go on to the next one?
Go on to the good old double blue.
All right. Toronto. Did you just turn your mic
everything
off?
Was a barn burner.
Did you just turn your mic off?
Yeah, because I coughed.
Oh, because you
coughed.
Cough
on the mic?
I thought he was gonna be like, I have nothing to say about this team. Disgust.
No, I'm not gonna cough on the mic, so I'm just being polite.
No, that's
I turn it off.
But in polite, you own the mic. Who cares?
No, but obviously, I'm being polite to our listeners.
I know. I'm busting your balls. You're good. All right. So if we go in here, I'm gonna just I want to try to get their roster pulled up. You didn't find a depth chart anywhere, did you?
Let me see if our good friends over at X and Argos.
X's and Argos.
Oops, that's not what I want. See if our friend Mr. Ben Grant.
See if they have anything up. I'm just gonna search.
Oh
up
no,
Argos.
that's one for Guelph.
Well, that's
no. Theirs doesn't come out till Thursday.
Yeah, but I mean, you couldn't find a fan one, eh?
No.
Yeah.
Because usually Ben Grant does the ones for.
Yeah, I see Ben Grant's tweet, but it's just the one from Guelph. Okay, well,
I mean,
I'll just look.
I know mostly where everyone's gonna be.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the roster sheet. So if we're looking at quarterbacks here, in no particular order, I got Arbuckle,
who is starting week 1.
Tucker Horn, who was very good in the preseason, and then also
I think he'll be backup, and then Doge will be short yardage.
Yeah.
While Kelly's
out. Then Chad Kelly on the injured list, injury reserve currently. I assume when Chad Kelly comes back in, he will be their starter, unless Nick Arbuckle really takes off, But
Chad Kelly will still be starter when he comes back.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, unless Nick Arbuckle is like insane.
Now the question is,
mm-hmm.
How long is he going to be on the injured list? Because obviously, he was given the okay to practice, but they're not rushing him in. So,
well, to be fair, I think Toronto is one of the few situations where if their quarterback goes down, I don't think they're in that much trouble. As I think Nick Arbuckle is a decent. He won them the Grey Cup, and then Tucker Horn was fantastic in the preseason.
I'm just saying, I want to say Chad Kelly misses at least 3 games, which is Montreal, Calgary, Saskatchewan. So, and then they play Ottawa, us, and Montreal. So within their first 7 games, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of their first 7 weeks are all division games. So you're going to want to win those division games.
Yep. That's a good point.
So for running backs, we have Deshaun McMahon and Mayan Williams, who did very well at the games that I saw for them, which made Kadeem Carey and Kevin Brown expendable.
Yeah, no, that put them out of a job. That's obviously Dinwiddie's got to be pretty darn impressed if he's willing to do that. As what is the saying that has been going around, especially in regards to the Toronto Argonauts? But
what have you done for me lately?
What have you done for me lately? Kadeem Carey says, Grey Cup. Ryan Dinwiddie says, not fucking good enough. We're sending you to Siberia. And so, speaking of which, we have a great video on Kevin Brown and Kadeem Carey and other running backs getting canned.
Walter Fletcher.
That's right. Check out our video on that. Good stuff. Leave it a like, share it around, and subscribe if you haven't already. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. We very much appreciate it. Anyway, shameless plug over. Now, shall we get onto the receiver core?
Wide receiver on the far left will be, let me pull up the name, DeMonte Coxey.
Yep.
The slot back right beside left tackle will be Devarius Daniels.
Yep.
Then on the right side, I'm not 100% sure of who the slot back is on the right tackle yet. On the far right, the wide receiver will be David Unger III, And to the left of that will be Deshaun Brissett and Herji Mayala.
Do they play Janarian Grant, any receiver, or just returner?
So they play him, returner, and then the odd
play. He just kind of goes in the
odd
mixture.
play.
That's fair.
Don't forget they also have Jake Hirschlow, Kevin Mattal, Derek Slywaka can play both ways. He plays safety and wide receiver.
Oh yeah. Interesting.
But that is
overall, that's a solid receiver core. That's very decent.
Yes.
That I would that's a receiver core I'd have confidence in. Which then brings us to the offensive line, which I am going to take a look here at their stats, the team stats at least. As shall we look at
the number of sacks?
The number of sacks here. And then we'll also look at sack yards lost. So, Toronto was sacked last year 40 times. This is a three-way tie for second most. They are tied as well with Montreal and with Ottawa, both having 40 sacks. BC led the league with 43, and just above, just a little bit better than those teams was Winnipeg with 36. Then for sack yards lost, they lost 221 yards, which is pretty much kind of right.
Like 2 football fields.
Which is actually relatively good, as it's about midway through. Like that's about 500. They're like because if we see here, Edmonton lost the least with 191, then Hamilton with 199, then Calgary with 206, and then afterwards was Toronto with 221. So they were fourth best in terms of least number of yards lost from sacks. I know it's maybe a bit of a.
I know we're talking about Toronto, but how many sacks did Hamilton give up? Because I didn't think we talked about that.
30.
And that was where?
30 sacks last year.
No, I know that, but where's that in the list?
The 30? That would be third best record, as the Elks gave up only 28, the Stamps gave up 29, and the Ticats gave up 30. Yeah,
that's not bad.
And they were second best. They were second best though for number of yards lost from sacks. They gave up 199, whereas the best record was not Toronto, Edmonton. They only gave up 191. So, yeah.
So on the offensive line, on the right tackle, we have Ryan Hunter. For right guard, we have
and Ryan
Peter
Hunter. Did he win or was he nominated for the offensive lineman of the year? I can't remember.
No, I think he won the offensive lineman.
He won it. Okay.
Peter Nicastro is the right guard. Just Darius Sirocco is the center.
Yep.
Serge Dockstader, I believe, is the left guard. And then left tackle is kind of up in the air, so I don't know.
Yeah, didn't Hunter play some of that last year?
He did, I think, because you got to remember because
Allen was on the other side.
Allen.
Yeah, Allen was on the right-hand side, yeah. Okay. So
you also have people that we did not mention: Dylan Giffen, George Moore, Anthony Vital.
So Dylan Giffen might actually be your
right. Oh, and John Boston.
Well, then Dylan Giffen might be your left guard because that's where he played last year.
Oh, okay.
And Peter Nicastro.
Well, because they had him at right guard on.
I have Vandal as Anthony Vandal as right guard on mine. I'm looking at the official depth chart from last year.
Oh, okay. Well,
so from what I see,
preseason,
the entire
yeah,
I guess I'm just comparing to last year. So to be fair, they might change it. If assuming they kept the same lineup they did last year, the only change would be Allen at right tackle for somebody else.
Yeah.
That would be it. But they can shuffle it up if they want. As it looks like they certainly did some shuffling beforehand. So, shall we go to the defense?
We shall.
Defensive line.
A whole new defensive line.
A whole new defensive line. Also known as they took a look at that good thing that was going and said, we are going to take an axe to it. As that defensive line was abused.
Butchered.
Was butchered.
Oh, what?
Derek Parrish is looking around and it was like, where did all my friends go?
What was that saying that you were using yesterday? They old yellered that defensive line and shot it again. They old
yellered that shit. They took him behind the barn and said, see you later. They old yellered.
So you have.
Actually, I can't. Actually, you know what? Actually, that's a little unfair. They didn't old yeller the defensive line. I'm sure they would have tried to keep them. The Edmonton Elks old yellered the Toronto Argonauts defensive line.
Actually, if you want to make up catchphrases, what's the catchphrase? Everyone has a price for the $1 Million Man.
Oh my God, is that a Ted DiBiase?
Money talks, my friends.
Money, 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 money.
So we have Derek Parrish at the left defensive end spot with a good friend of yours. Do you know who that good friend of yours is?
Are you talking about Mr. Derek Parrish?
No, I'm saying like who his backup is.
Who's backup? Is that Celestin Haba?
That is my friend. Another former Bomber.
Former Winnipeg Blue Bomber. We're sad that he's gone, but we wish him well on his future endeavors.
And then we have good old DeMarcus Christmas. We have Anthony Lanier II. It was going to be Brian Cox Jr., but he suffered a non-football injury. They also have Atlas Bell, Andrew Chatfield, another former Bomber, Frederick Hansen, that Carter wishes that they never lost.
This is true.
Tyson Hergott, Jeremiah Ojo, and Jordan Williams. So here's my thought with this defensive line is they will have sacks. They will have pressure. They just won't have as many sacks.
Rick,
as they did
Rick,
last
you should
year.
take a look at what I sent to you on Discord. This is my thoughts on the Toronto Argonauts. What happened to the Toronto Argonauts? The Toronto Argonauts defensive line. For those wondering what I sent Rick, I sent him the Edmonton Elks with the $1 Million championship wrapped firmly around its waist. Oh my God, I love worthless bullshit. This is not a bad defensive line at all, but this defensive line is definitely hurt. The loss of Jake Serezna and
they'll still
Jared...
get pressure.
Oh, absolutely. I just think we're looking at the number one defensive line going from number one to maybe number 3 or 4.
So I was actually sitting here and listening to the season preview earlier tonight, and they were saying with Cameron Judge and Wynton McManus on that linebacker core, the only way that they will be able to do their thing with knockdowns, interceptions, pressure is if that defensive line can put pressure on the offensive line. So there's going to be some questions.
I wouldn't say that it's
I
the
mean, again,
only way they can do their job, but I would definitely say that that's a big
no,
key part
but
in it.
I mean, obviously, your linebackers aren't going to be successful if defensive line's not getting pressure.
Yep.
So we will go to the linebacker core,
Yes.
who is Jack Caesar, Isaac Dark Angelo, Cameron Judge, Daniel Kwa Moyu, Winton McManus, Donald Rutledge, and Ryder Varga, who came over in the BC trade.
Hmm.
And don't forget, Cameron Judge came over in the Flo Order Malade trade as well.
Yes. Just right
Which
now.
is interesting because Flo talked shit about the Stampeders along with Kerry last year. But yet Flo goes back to the team that he talked shit about.
What'd you say, sorry?
I said Flo.
Yeah.
And I think it was Kadeem Carey. I forget who else it was. That was talking crap about the way that Calgary treats their players.
And this was, sorry, Flo. Who's Flo again? I'm trying to remember.
Flo Ordamalade, the one that was traded.
Sorry. I'm bad with nicknames.
No, he came over in the Cameron Judge trade from Calgary, so he goes back there after he talked smack with them last year.
Yeah, not a good look for the Stamps.
Shall we go on to defensive backs?
Yeah, we'll cover defensive backs and then I'll give some general team stats, offense and defense.
Okay. So here's where things get interesting because you have Tavarius McFadden and Benji Franklin. There's other defensive backs, but those were the main two that were there last year because Tyson Blackburn was the backup to Royce Metier. And then you also had Deshaun Amos there. So there's a lot missing from the secondary. But they also have Darius Bratton, Jonathan Ed Award, Benji Franklin, Kenneth George Jr., another former Ticat, and Mark Milton, who also was a former Ticat last year that left when he got cut and went to Toronto. Mind you, when Chris Jones came and became our defensive coordinator, he yellered Kenneth George Jr. and said, hit the bricks. He goes to Toronto and wins the Grey Cup. So
worked out pretty well for him.
I guess you could say that.
Fair enough. So, and then at the kicking game, you have Mr. Lyram Haralahu, as well as you got John
Mr.
Haggerty. Josh Haggerty as your punter. So, overall, good punter, good veteran kicker who's been around for a while, who is 35 years old and was not, and so he's going to be one of the older guys in the league. Now, if you were to only take the word of the CFL website, you would think that Samuel Emelis is easily the oldest player in the league at 125 years old, according to the CFL website. As they had a bit of a typo there. Rick, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was wondering if you were there. But no. So I'm going to go through some of the team stats here for Toronto before we move on. So,
okay.
We're going to start with the offense here. I'm not going to talk about sacks. We already did that. Rushing offense, Toronto was actually second in the league last year. 121.3 yards per game. The running back that was leading that is no longer here. So, bold take. But again, what have you done for me lately? If we go to the passing game, Toronto was ranked 6th. They were ahead of Montreal, but below Edmonton. As in the passing game, they were at 252.9 yards per game on average. Now, to be fair, I think they got better as the season went on. As Mackay Polk kind of got settled into things, and then Chad Kelly kind of returns. And I guess he's kind of doing something similar this season, just for not nearly the same reason. But if we go over to defense, the rush defense for Toronto was really good. Second best in the league, only behind Saskatchewan. They gave up an average of 85.1 rushing yards per game, so they were ahead of Edmonton, below Saskatchewan. Then if we look at the passing defense, Toronto was 7th. They were ahead of Saskatchewan, below Ottawa, as they gave up an average of 278.3 yards per game in passing. That was how much their defense gave up. In terms of downs, Toronto was got the third, hold on a second, offensive downs. Toronto was third in the league, ahead of BC, below Edmonton, with 386 first downs over the course of last season. And defensively, they gave up, they were pretty good. They gave up 349, which is the third best, just behind Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, but ahead of BC. So all in all, Toronto was a good team last year. There's a reason they won the Grey Cup. They are the defending Grey Cup champions. As much as someone like me hates saying it, because I remember who they beat in the Grey Cup game, and it hurts my soul. Toronto's in a situation where it is not impossible for them to do it again, but they'll have to see. So, Rick, floor and ceiling for this team.
I could see floor would be 4th if they can't rebound from all their defensive players gone. And ceiling, I would say 2.
Ooh.
That's only because... So the only way that they get 2 is if Montreal somehow locks up first by, like, week 16.
Interesting, because we have a bit of a different view on things. So, ceiling for Toronto, in my opinion, is 3rd place. I do not see Toronto dropping all the way down to 4th from Grey Cup champions. I don't see that big of a drop. I could see 3rd. I couldn't see 4th. Don't see them dropping out of the playoffs. The ceiling for Toronto is 1st. They are the Grey Cup defending champions. There's still a lot of talent there, despite what they have lost. They will need some retooling. I'm not saying they will go 1st, but I think it's very much within the realm of possibility. Again, these are just my predictions as of right now, though. Things will change. It is hard. The CFL, in my opinion, is probably one of the hardest leagues to predict, just as there's so much movement from year to year, in which teams can change so dramatically but have surprisingly little impact on the standings, or surprisingly large impact. It is very, like, would you say, Rick, that the CFL is one of the hardest leagues to predict compared to something like the NHL and other leagues, where there's just so little movement? The CFL, like, players are jumping all over the place every single season.
It's not even players, but you could be winning a game. And Carter knows where I'm going with this. You could be winning a game like 27-24 with like
in the
less
CFL.
than 3 minutes left. I'm curious to see what the number is of how many games were changed in under 3 minutes last year. Because that's the big thing.
No idea, but that's a good question. So, I think we're done with Toronto. Shall we move on to the Red Blacks?
We shall.
Okay. So, Ottawa. Oh, I forgot I put the Ottawa Renegades logo on this graphic, too. I have the Red Blacks logo on the top, and then on the bottom it's the Ottawa Renegades logo. That's fun. So, Ottawa. Where do we start, Rick? Starting with the quarterbacks again?
Like we always seem to do?
Like we always do. I'll let you start this time.
I mean, I don't know why they're still carrying 4. Do you really need 4 quarterbacks?
So who's your 4? Because you got Drew Brown, you got Dustin Crum,
Matt Schultz and
Matt Schultz.
Trey Williams or Trey Adams. Sorry,
Trey Adams.
I mean, I'm sure one of them will go to the one game, but do you really need
Four
quarterbacks though?
Yeah.
Their running back is William Stanback, Anthony Gosling, and Daniel Adnaboye. That's an Adnaboye. Way to go, boy. And then, so here's another receiving group for you. Braylon Addison, Devontae Dedmon, Marco Dubois, Justin Hardy, Eugene Lewis, Cale Pimpleton, and Keelan White. Don't forget, they also have Nick Mardner on the 6th game as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think that's a very good receiving core. I think, to be honest, their receiving core was decent before going in, but they kind of needed a bit of star power. As Devontae Dedmon, that's more of a returner kind of guy, but a great returner. Justin Hardy, decent. Braylon Addison, decent. Pimpleton, good, very good. White, good, but there was no star. Now they got that. Geno Lewis is that guy. Eugene Lewis. And so the question is if you can just get it consistent passing to it. I imagine Drew Brown is your starter here. But Ottawa's a team that can kind of jump between a few. Ottawa was very good last year. People forgot that for a while Ottawa was not that far behind Montreal, looking for first place in the East. And I would argue that Ottawa has only improved this year. Would not argue that they've really lost much. As Armstead,
I mean, if you really think about it, they lost
because they lost Dominic Grimes, they got Geno Lewis, and I would argue that's an upgrade.
No. I'm thinking of the wrong teams.
Do you know what I mean, though? Like, would you agree that Geno Lewis is an upgrade to Dominic Grimes?
I mean, if you throw to Lewis, yeah. But I mean, if you don't use them,
well, yeah, but you can say that about anyone. But here's my thing: Dominic Grimes, Geno Lewis. Assuming you throw to them the same number of times, which one's the better receiver? Assuming all the factors are the same, I would say Geno Lewis is.
So this is what makes the East so deadly, because if you think about it, you have Lawler and White and Hamilton, you have Lewis and Hardy and Ottawa. I mean, you could pick any of the 5 receivers in Montreal. Like, the only team that doesn't have receivers that you really have to double team is Toronto. That, like, where if you double team them, then the other ones are going to make you pay.
Yeah. No, I see that. Although, like, you're saying Toronto's the only team for that?
That's what I mean, because, like, you could put...
Well, hold on a second. I have 2 names for you then. Austin Mack, Tyson Philpott.
That's what I mean. Like, you could put any of those 3 teams together. You could go double team one of their players. And then all of a sudden, one of them's wide open.
You're saying Ottawa's the only team you maybe don't have to do that for?
No, Toronto's the only team that you would not have to do that for. Because, I mean, yeah, they do have receivers, but it's not like Lawler or Eugene Lewis or Austin Mack and Philpott. And
yeah, I'd say maybe Daniels is the only one who's really that.
I mean, if you put Daniels
threat.
and Coxey on the same line or the same side,
maybe. Yeah, difficult to say. But yeah, we kind of, I guess, skipped over a little bit the running back situation. I think William Stanback's an improvement. They had Armstead obviously for a while. Armstead gets released for unknown reasons. I'm assuming it's something off-field related.
And then, what the heck was his name that retired? I have to look it up.
But anyways, the running game just did not get going after that. That was when Armstead was gone. The running game kind of died for Ottawa.
Devontae Williams was the
it,
running back I was thinking of, but then he retired.
It did not get going, so they needed kind of a piece to go in and give them that dual threat between the rushing and the passing. And I think William Stanback gives it to him. Now, with Stanback, I do not recommend the little short little dump pass to him on plays where
catch.
I do not recommend throwing to Stanback, as Stanback kind of gives off the 1960s Adam West Batman energy, in the sense of, I gotta get rid of this bomb, and he was like fumbling it all around, and I've seen I've seen that play go poorly. Again, I mentioned it in our West preview, but this is how our friend in Saskatchewan, AJ Allen, got his first career touchdown, was from William Stanback playing a little bit of juggling on the field, and AJ Allen says, "Thank you. I will take that ball for myself and run to your end zone," and did that. But overall improvement at running back, which then brings us to the offensive line.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to take a look here. If you can start for last year's O-line for them.
Okay, I'll just go through the names. Darius Bladdock.
Bladdock played last year for them at right guard.
Samuel Carson, Drew Desjardins.
Well, hold on a second.
Peter Godberg.
Carson was their backup right guard. Desjardins was the starting left guard last year. I just kind of want to go through while you do this.
Peter Godberg came over from Saskatchewan, I think.
And I think he might be their new center. I'm assuming he played center in Saskatchewan.
And then we have Darta Lee.
He was the backup left tackle last year for Ottawa.
Zach Pelios.
He was their starting right tackle last year.
Jacob Ruby.
Ruby was the backup center last year for Ottawa.
And then Eric Starks Kazala.
Stark-Zala. He was their starting center. So either Stark-Zala will stay at center, or he'll bump out and Godber will go there, or maybe Godber will go somewhere else. Potentially left tackle on the line. We'll have to see. So overall, relatively similar offensive line. Definitely an improvement. Godber was a good offensive lineman for Saskatchewan. Yeah, I think that's a net positive, an improvement. And if we look at the offensive line last year, at the stats here, in regards to sacks, Ottawa was second worst last year. Worst was BC Lions with 43 sacks given up. Ottawa was tied for second with Toronto and Montreal with 40 sacks given up, for a net loss of 283 yards off of sacks. That is the second worst record, actually just behind the Lions, which were the worst record, 327, Ottawa 283. All in all, the offensive line for Ottawa last year was okay, better than the year before. And thankfully for Ottawa, I think 2025, their offensive line will be a little bit better than it was in 2024. So I assume this will go to a more middle-of-the-pack offensive line. And again, Drew Desjardins, I do think, is the star there. There's a reason that he went and spent some time with the New England Patriots in the NFL, and that's because he's a damn good offensive lineman. Which brings us to the defensive line. Rick, can you go through the names, and I'll just kind of say where they were?
Defensive line?
Yes.
Sure.
And
Bryce Carter.
Bryce Carter was the starting right side defensive end last year for Ottawa.
Aiden John.
Aiden John was the left side backup defensive end for Ottawa.
Cleon Lang.
Lang was their left side defensive tackle starter last year for Ottawa.
Lorenzo Malden IV.
He was the left side starting defensive end last year for Ottawa.
Daniel Okapoko.
He was not on. I don't think he was on Ottawa last year. I don't see him on a.
He wasn't on the team. Okay, so he's.
I'm looking at a depth. I'm looking at a depth chart from last year, and I don't see him.
Okay. Kenny on Yika.
I don't see him on here. Again, so if I say I don't see him on here, that means that either the game I'm looking at specifically from last year's season, they were either not on the team or were injured.
Or they're on the practice squad.
Or practice squad.
Blessman Tayala.
Actually, yes, I do see him. He was the backup right side defensive tackle.
And then Michael Wakefield.
And Wakefield was there last year. So we could be looking at the exact same defensive line from last year. Last year, going left to right, they had Malden, Lang, Wakefield, and Carter as their front four. So I could see them running the exact same thing. Which means, if they're running the same thing, how did what they ran last year perform? So if we're going to look at the rushing defense, the Ottawa Redblacks were fourth best, ahead of BC, behind Edmonton, as they gave up 96.2 yards per game rushing. So overall, very, very middle of the pack. Good, not bad, not incredible defensive line. So the good news for them is that when you have a group staying together, usually they get better as time goes on, as it's the same guys playing together, better chemistry and whatnot. If you're Ottawa, that is what you're hoping you get from them. Is there anything else you got to say about the defensive line, or should we go to the linebackers?
We can go to linebackers.
Linebackers, list them out the same way.
Okay, so we have linebackers. Frankie Griffin.
Frankie Griffin, right?
Griffin, yes.
Not Griffiths. Griffin.
No, that's going to be the next one.
Yeah. Griffin was the backup weak side linebacker for Ottawa last year.
Okay, now Jalen Griffiths.
Jalen Griffiths was the fourth string middle linebacker for Ottawa last year.
James Peter.
James Peter was the third string middle linebacker last year.
Darius Pickett.
Darius Pickett.
He's probably wasn't on there because he was injured last year.
I think he was injured at this time.
So he was
because I know he was on the team last year. So
linebacker.
He was the starting Sam linebacker.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds right.
Robert Priester's not going to be on there because he came over from Toronto.
Okay.
Javan Santos Knox.
He was the starting middle linebacker for Ottawa last year.
Devon Taylor.
Devon Taylor was the starting Will linebacker for Ottawa last year.
Okay, and then Tyron Verdi.
He was the backup middle linebacker for the Ottawa Redblacks last year. Any other ones?
No, that's it.
No Cormier, no Williams, no Governor. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So looks like they pretty much will have at least the same starters last year with Taylor, Santos Knox, and Adarius Pickett. As I know he's not on the depth chart I'm looking at right now, but he was definitely their starting Sam linebacker. So overall, linebacker core. We'll look at the passing stats after we cover the secondary.
So secondary was, Alonzo Ade.
Oh yeah, and that was
So
their
that's as
starting.
in he wasn't on there.
He was their starting safety last year.
Okay, well you're just like okay, you're like
No,
okay.
sorry, I was getting one of my headset things back in.
Oh, okay.
Starting safety for
CJ
Ottawa last year.
CJ Colden.
He was their starting right side corner last year.
Okay, here's the person that you just named, Lucas Cormier.
Lucas Cormier. Last year he was their third string will linebacker. So I'm assuming similar to like a guy like I think it was Brian Cole who bumped between linebacker and in the secondary
and
secondary.
Sam linebacker as well.
Um,
Um,
yeah. So Cormier was third string will linebacker last year, but I guess he's playing a little
Eric
secondary.
Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch was their third string safety last year for Ottawa.
Okay, Adrian Fry.
Adrian Fry was their backup right side halfback last year.
Okay, Amari Henderson came over from Saskatchewan. So he won't be on there. DeAndre Lamont.
Lamont. I don't see Lamont on here, which means that he either was on the practice roster, not on the team,
Or he was injured. Okay. Elijah McGee.
By the way, the game I'm looking at is from... Oh, or is that... Was the one I'm looking from, is that from last year, or is that from... I might have actually... oh, yeah,
You
I
can
guess...
tell at the very top, it'll tell you the date.
Yeah, I think I was looking at one from week 1 of the preseason. Whoops. And not last year. But for the most part, a lot of this stuff is the same.
Dawson Pierre.
Dawson Pierre. I see in last year he played will linebacker for Ottawa.
Okay, what about Elijah McGee? Was he on there?
He was actually their starting right side corner last year.
Oh, okay.
He was not the guy
Charlie Ringland.
Ringland. Don't see him on here on the team last year.
Okay, he's a rookie. Okay, and Bennett Williams.
Bennett Williams. Don't see him on here. Although I see in the preseason he played a little bit of linebacker, Sam linebacker in the preseason for Ottawa this year.
There you go.
So, yeah.
And then obviously you have your Lewis Ward and Richie Leone.
This is correct. So, all in all, Ottawa Redblacks, looking at the passing defense, Ottawa was 6th. They were ahead of Toronto. They were behind Hamilton. They would give up an average of 275.4 yards per net passing yards per game. Just looking over at some general statistics before we kind of summarize them up. In terms of downs, the Ottawa Redblacks generated 365 first downs, which was third last. They were above, 7th. They were above Saskatchewan. They were behind Winnipeg. For the defense, they gave up the second most first downs. They were above Hamilton. Hamilton was 401. Ottawa was 389. And actually, they were tied. They were tied with Calgary. Calgary also gave up 389. So they're tied for second last. And then it was Montreal ahead of them with 383. So it was Montreal, 383. 389 was Calgary and Ottawa. And then it was Hamilton at 401 for first downs given up. This actually kind of sucks. The football database has sections listed for third down efficiency, attempts versus made, and a percentage, but they don't have any of the stats in there, which kind of sucks. Because I actually would have loved to see how many they generated on like how many third downs you can get conversions on. I think that would have been really sweet to get stats on that, but they don't. It's funny. It also has fourth down, but of course, fourth down isn't in CFL. So, but anyways, all in all, floor and ceiling for the Red Blacks this year, Rick.
I'm gonna say ceiling will be could be 2. Floor could be last. Because if you look at the standings from last year, I had them.
Do you want to know what I'm putting, Rick? Floor ceiling is 1 and 4. I have no effing idea where to put this team. Ottawa is the wild card here, in the sense of that Ottawa was a lot better last year than people gave them credit for, and arguably they actually improved this year. But Ottawa has been so shaky at quarterback. Not like, no offense to Drew Brown, but it's one of those things where Drew Brown hasn't settled into the starting quarterback position in the sense of that nobody questions it. In the sense of that, if he's kind of in a bit of a similar situation to Trey Ford, where Trey Ford looks like he's ready to be a starter, but like there's been times it hasn't gone as well as people host, and the team is not given the confidence to say you are the starter, no questions asked. I think Ottawa has more confidence in Drew Brown than Edmonton does in Trey Ford. Now, when I say Edmonton, I mean the Edmonton organization. I do not mean Edmonton fans, as I know that Elks fans are very much behind Trey Ford. I'm just talking about the organization. The organization has made it very clear that they're behind Drew Brown, but it's not the same as the way a team like Winnipeg is behind Zach Calero's do or die, or the way that the Ticats are behind Bo Levi Mitchell do or die.
So, interesting.
And that's where the unpredictability is.
Ottawa had the worst away record at 2-7 last year.
This is true.
And they were 7-1-1 at home.
Yep.
They had, as far as points wise, they had 443, which was the second lowest in the whole league. And Calgary was the only lowest one. So, even
you're talking overall. You're talking overall.
Like points for overall.
Scoring. I'm just gonna look here.
Like I'm talking like points for and points against.
Okay. If we're looking at the offense, they had the second least amount of points.
Yeah.
443.
And then Calgary was behind them.
Yes, that's right. Oh, did you find it on the football database?
No, I'm looking on CFL's website.
Okay.
And followed by so it was Calgary, Ottawa, Montreal. No, sorry. Calgary, Ottawa, BC. No, BC had one more point than Winnipeg. So Calgary, Ottawa, Winnipeg, then BC was the bottom 4.
I see.
So unless they can pull some magic hat out of the behind and pull a Winnipeg and have the third worst points overall and still make it first, then... Oh, you think the ceiling's bad? Wait till we have to do our standing predictions. It's going to be even harder.
I could literally ask ChatGPT to like roll the dice on all of them, and none would look entirely impossible. Shall we get to the last?
We
one?
shall.
Montreal Alouettes. Putting the faith in the young guy.
So, funny fact. I just asked ChatGPT. So they have Toronto as first, Hamilton second, Montreal third, Ottawa second. They have final thoughts.
Hamilton most Ottawa improved. Fourth, you mean? Ottawa fourth.
Yeah, sorry, Ottawa fourth.
You can't have final two teams come second.
Hamilton most improved, Montreal biggest regression risk, and Ottawa's the wild card sleeper.
And who's the wild card sleeper? Sorry.
Ottawa.
Yeah. That's actually not a bad ranking. As the Alouettes are definitely the most regressed. I would agree with that. Rick?
No, I'm
just making sure. I had to pull up one of my headphones. I want to make sure the other one was working.
No, it was ChatGPT was just giving me a 5-minute video on making East predictions.
Oh yeah. The
But
I'm just gonna pull up their roster now. Let's start with the quarterbacks.
Sure. Okay. Good luck trying to find the positions on the roster.
Wait, what?
You'll have to kind of adjust it by name.
No, their roster shows the positions.
Yeah, but they're in French. Remember, QA is QB.
No, mine's in English. Mine says QB.
Oh, well, I selected English and mine's in French.
I'm going to send you the link that I'm looking at. So that way we're looking at the same one. Hold on a second.
Fair enough.
When I send the link, I see the Elks thing I sent you.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Do you see it here?
Let's do it to it. Yes, I do.
In English this time?
In English this time.
All right. So, quarterbacks for the Alouettes. Davis Alexander with Caleb Evans. James Morgan, sorry. And why is
and Father Time.
And McLeod Bethel Thompson. So, the assumed order here is Davis Alexander, McLeod Bethel Thompson, Caleb Evans, and then James Morgan, I'm assuming. So, Davis Alexander played a couple games for them last season. It's pretty good.
6 to be exact.
He had played 6 games for them and was relatively well received and looked like he could be a young guy that they could pass the reins to at some point. Passing the reins to him right now? This is... You know what this is? This is the equivalent of throwing the kid in the swimming pool and seeing if he learned how to swim, or if, like without the life, we're throwing him in the pool without a life jacket. We're gonna see if that guy swims.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Have you ever seen the TV show Cobra Kai?
I've not seen Cobra Kai.
Okay. Well, anyways, William Zabka, who plays Johnny Lawrence, is trying to get his fighter to kick. So he puts his head underwater and he's telling him to kick. He's like, "Stop being a pussy, learn to kick." So he's trying to kick in the water while he's holding him underwater.
Oh my god. But yeah, no. Davis Alexander's a guy with a lot of promise. Like if we look at his stats right now, maybe actually I'll look at this for Davis Alexander. The good news is that there's one thing I've noticed about the East, and I could say this about every team in the East besides, I guess I could say about a Hamilton too, but there is not a single team in the East where if their starting quarterback goes down, all hope is gone. Now, they may not be necessarily are still going to win the same way they did with their starter. But there are some teams in the West, like Calgary, where if VA goes down, Calgary is what we like to call fucked. Where if they lose their starting quarterback, they're in big, big trouble. Good enough, thankfully for these East teams, I don't see that being as much of an issue.
I mean, you could almost say that with BC, because, do you really trust your season in Mazzoli's hands if Rourke went down?
See, you could trust Mazzoli if Rourke went down until Mazzoli goes down. Because Mazzoli is made of friggin' glass.
True.
Now, if you have to put the season in Chase Bryce, now if I was a betting man, I would bet more than the average person on Chase Bryce. But salvaging the BC Lions season, not sure if I'd bet that much on him.
Carter would bet the ant farm.
I'd bet the ant farm. That's right.
So my
you know
question,
what I would
are we
bet?
going-
I would bet this Canadian toonie on Chase Bryce. Anyways, Davis Alexander though. If we're looking last year, his stats last year. Overall, relatively decent. Now, it says he played 18 games. This is lies. I will not be deceived by the lies of the Jedi. He only really started like 6 of those. In that time, he had 105 completions for 151 attempts, which gives him...
Are you going off of CFL.ca or like his player stats?
Yes, CFL.ca, passing.
If you scroll down, it will tell you which games he played.
Okay, so we have exactly one. Hold on a second. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3,
7
4,
games.
5, 6. So he played 7 games, although it looks like that last one he played like half the game. So he played like 6.5 games. So 105 completions on 151 attempts. That's 69.5%. Not bad. Little low, but not horrible. He passed for 1,347 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Good ratio. Again, not a massive sample size, but also not a tiny one either. Certainly a larger sample size than the Bombers got out of Drew Brown. However, to be fair, the Ottawa Red Blacks waited for Drew Brown to kind of progress a little more in Winnipeg before they actually pulled the trigger on him. Whereas with Montreal, this is Davis Alexander's 3rd year in here. He's only 26 years old. Like, this is a young guy. He is 4 years older than me. That's it.
And he's younger than me.
And he's younger than you. This is true. Which, and then last year was the first year he threw. He had an average of 8.9 yards per pass. Not bad. For his rushing, he had 24 carries for 166 yards, which averages out to, if I just do a little bit of math here, 14.45 yards on average per carry. Great. Really, really good. He has got 3 rushing touchdowns. It says here, hold on a second. Why does it say an average of 6.9?
For what?
Because it said he had 24 carries, 166 yards. 24 divided by 166 gives you, and then times it by 100 to put it into percent, 14.457. Maybe I'm counting something I shouldn't be counting, or maybe I didn't cut something out.
You got to remember, he didn't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, because I don't know.
I'm getting a different number than the one they're getting, but the number that they're giving us is 6.9 yards on average. Even then, pretty good for.
And that's the number that we go by, not your number.
Yes, even though their number doesn't have the formula behind it, and I would like to know what formula they were using to come up with that number. But that's fine. We'll just take it at face value. Bethel Thompson is a serviceable backup. I don't know, like...
Depends on what version Bethel Thompson you're getting.
Well, he's a serviceable backup. I'm not saying that he is the one that
I get
you're going to
that,
lead
but
to the Grey Cup.
Are you getting like the backup, Toronto backup? Because then that's a backup. If you get the Elks McLeod Bethel Thompson, you might as well just say, Old Yeller, go shoot him and friggin' put him to sleep.
Okay, I wouldn't say that when Caleb
garbage.
Evans is the guy behind him, and I have more faith in Bethel Thompson than I do Caleb Evans.
But Bethel Thompson was horrible in Edmonton last year.
And Caleb Evans was horrible in Montreal. I'm sorry. Caleb Evans wasn't horrible in Montreal. I wouldn't say Bethel Thompson was horrible in Edmonton. I'd say there were some games he was horrible and some games that he was decent. But we're talking about a former CFL starter, so I understand why you give him a shot. But anyway, so a bit of a less certainty at quarterback for Montreal compared to some prior seasons. Certainly compared to last year. Running backs. For Montreal,
This is my
Walter
huge question
Fletcher
mark for this team.
is cut. Why? Well, a poor preseason performance. And what is the saying, Rick? What is it?
What have you done for me lately?
The answer is lately we cut you.
Nothing.
And so Stevie Scott III, Travis Thies, and Sean Thomas Erlington are, it looks like, your three running backs. So Sean Thomas Erlington your number one there?
I won't know until Thursday when they post the depth chart.
The depth chart. Because if we look at last year from the September 6th game that they had, I can't remember who they were against for this game. They went Fletcher, Antwi, Thomas Erlington. Fletcher's gone. Antwi's gone. Thomas Erlington is your guy there. So either you're using him or you're using one of these other two. So big loss. Big loss there for Montreal at running back. I don't know how much faith I have in this running back core. Then that brings us to receivers, in which for the receiver core, they have Regis Kabasu, Shedler Furvius, Hakeem Harris, James Letcher Jr., Austin Mack with the big money contract he signed, Tyson Philpott, Tyler Sneed, Cole Speaker, and then there was the loss of Reggie White Jr. Now, I would say still what?
Also, after Philpott, you went to Sneed. You miss. I don't know if you said Charleston or Rambo.
I forgot to say Rambo. That is correct.
And that reminds me of the what the heck is it? Sylvester Stallone Rambo series.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, is that is a very, very, very good receiving core. Here's here's the problem. I noticed something, Rick. You know what it is? The Montreal Alouettes have the opposite problem that the BC Lions have, where the BC Lions have the great quarterback, but you have the question of if he has enough receivers to go to. And Montreal has these great receivers, but you have questions about the quarterback that's throwing to them. Would you agree with that analysis, Rick?
I mean, I still want to see, we only have a small sample size of Davis Alexander, so I'd still want to see more from him.
Yeah, no, but would you agree that the threat of the receivers is the danger part in that equation and not the quarterback?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, Austin Mack and Tyson Philpott are two top 20 players in the CFL. I'm not even gonna say receivers, top 20 players in the CFL. Both top 10 receivers in the CFL. You can make an argument for one.
I mean, it depends on who you ask.
I think they're both top 10 receivers. Austin Mack and Tyson Philpott, yeah.
Okay, receivers. Okay, we're not talking.
For receivers, yeah, not players. Top 20 players, top 10 receivers.
I mean, some beg to differ, but.
Okay, how about this? Top 20 offensive players.
No, I get with what you're saying.
They're damn good receivers. They're damn good. And Austin Mack is making his money well. And so there is, I would say, despite even with the loss of Reggie White Jr., no concern whatsoever for the receiving core.
I can't believe Tyson Philpott will be 25 this year. Like, that guy's already been in the league for 3 years already.
Oh boy, is he that young?
It's only 24. He'll be 25.
Wait a minute. When's his birthday?
July 26th.
How did you know that so quickly?
Because I have his player profile open.
His birthday is July 26th, which means that that my brother Zach is older than him.
And that tells
make that make sense. Zachary Nolan of the Nolan Hockey Podcast. I say this with brotherly love. You know this.
He comes and watches the video. He's like, why the fuck are you shit talking me?
Oh no, he'll just start shit talking me back. He won't even ask questions. But then that brings us to the offensive line. Now I'm gonna pull up last year what they used for one of their games, and I want you to list them out, kind of like how we did it with Ottawa.
Okay.
Yep. And we're going to see if this is a net improvement or regression. Do you have it?
Oh yeah, I was waiting for you to say that you have it pulled up.
I'm ready. Yep, I'm good.
Okay. We have Nick Collender.
Like Callender. He was their
Callender.
Yeah, he was their left side starting offensive tackle.
Jesse Gibbon.
Gibbon. He was their right guard backup. Backup right guard.
Okay. Sorelli, Hogan, Sendon.
Don't see him on the depth chart, so he was either injured on the practice roster or not on the team.
Okay.
Last year. This is from
Justin
September
Lawrence.
6th game. Lawrence was their starting center.
Okay. Pierre Oliver, Lestage. Yes.
He was their starting left guard last year.
Jamar McGloster.
I do not see him on here. So he's either on the practice roster, injured, or on the team.
Tiger Shanks, you won't find on there because that's their first round pick from this year.
Okay.
And the last one is Donald Ventrelli or Vanrelli. Ventrelli.
Do not see him on here.
Okay, so then he's a rookie too.
That's the last one?
That's the last one.
Oh, boy. So I'm counting at least 2 starters gone.
Because Philip Gagne went to Saskatchewan. There's one.
Okay, so where were the 2 that I saw here that I did not see here is Gagne and then Donovan. So what were some of the names that I said I did not recognize that you listed besides the draft pick?
Let's see. Jesse Gibbon, you said. Nick Collender.
Yep.
Hogan.
Oh.
Sedon, you said it.
Whoa, Hogan. Hold on a second. CF. This is Krishan Hogan? Or
no, this is Hogan Sendon. He's it's a hyphenated last name.
Hogan Sendon. Cyril Hogan Sendon.
Okay, so he played. The reason why he's Ottawa. Not. Yeah, I was just gonna say he came over from Ottawa, so that's why you won't see him on there.
Now, hold on a second. Though. Let me see if he was a starter last year for Ottawa, or if he was a backup. If I look here for a Ottawa depth chart, I don't even see him on here. So was he practice roster?
I have no idea. You said Justin Lawrence was on there, right?
Hogan Sendon, actually, he played some starting center for them, for Ottawa.
Okay, you said Justin Lawrence was on there?
Yes.
Okay, Lestage, you said was on there or no?
Who? Lestage, yes.
Oliver.
Yep.
Okay.
Starting left guard.
Okay. McGloster?
No.
Okay, so there's him.
Okay, so we're looking at a decently changed offensive line. I think that's fair to say at this point, right?
Correct.
Because you're talking about replacing at least 2 of the offensive linemen. That's a decent enough change. And so last year they gave up 40 sacks. They were tied for second worst, along with Ottawa and Toronto. and BC was the worst at 43, and Winnipeg was just slightly better than all of them at 36, and then it just kind of kept getting better and better. The Toronto, or not the Toronto Argonauts, the Ottawa Redblacks gave up 231 yards lost from sacks, which is kind of it's kind of towards the worst side of things. That was 7th in the league, as the worst was BC with 327. Then it was Ottawa with 283, and then afterwards is Montreal with 231. But it is, even though it's 7th, it's closer. It's much closer to 6th and 5th than it is to 8 and 9. So relatively offensive line. Not the best, not the worst. And now we're talking about an offensive line that's arguably probably regressed as well. This is not looking good for Ottawa or for Montreal so far. I will say, not great. Let's get on to the defensive line. I have their August 16th depth chart in front of me. If you can just list off
so Isaac Berglund.
Isaac Berglund?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second. Talk for a second. I just heard it kind of glitch in my...
Hello?
Okay. Just one of my headset dead. The other side's good. You're not talking about Adiemi Berglund, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you are. Oh, is his name no longer hyphenated?
No, it's hyphenated. I just didn't know how to pronounce the first part.
Oh, Adiemi Berglund.
So I just went with Berglund.
Yep. Yeah, he was starting left side defensive end.
Okay, Jalen Harris.
Jalen Harris, I do not see here on the depth chart. So either injured, practice rostered, or different team.
Okay. Mustafa Johnson.
Starting right side defensive tackle.
Okay, Tevion Mason you won't find because he came over from Hamilton.
Cap.
Which he was backup defensive tackle for us.
Okay, that's good to know.
Antonio Moultrie.
Backup right side defensive tackle for the Alouettes.
Okay, this person I know you're definitely not going to find on there because he hasn't played in the CFL for quite a bit. Sean Oakman.
I know the name, but yes, you're right. I do not see him on the depth chart.
His one that retired was the GM and then unretired and then signed with Montreal.
Yep. Yeah, no, I do know the name, though. I do know who he is.
Alwal Ugaluak. Last name is Uguak.
No, don't see anything like that here. So either
he's a rookie.
Injured, practice roster, or not on the team.
Okay, and then Byron Vaughns.
Injured, practice roster, or not on the team.
Okay, and lastly but not least, former Ticat, Dylan Wynn.
Dylan Wynn was backup defensive tackle for Alouettes last year.
So that is the whole defensive line group.
So, all in all, just a lot of talent lost here. I'm just looking at who's on the team, and in what you're listing here. You'll finish listing all of them, and then I'll look back and I'll be like, there's a lot of names that I see on here that you're not saying. But if I'm looking here at someone like Sean Oakman, last year played a bit with Edmonton, 32 defensive tackles, no sacks, 3 sacks, no special teams tackles, and 1 interception, 1 forced fumble. It's okay. It's not great. It's not terrible. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this D-line. If we look at some of the team stats here for their defense against the rushing, they were 7th. They gave up 115.9 yards rushing last year.
That would explain why you've seen a lot of changeover.
Yeah, but I don't know. But is it improvement? Maybe. I see changeover, but I don't know if I see improvement because changeover is not inherently improvement.
I mean, there's rookies, so you don't know what they're gonna bring.
Yeah, but usually rookies, you don't see them start shining until usually it takes a season or two. You know what I mean?
I guess.
Rick, look me in the eyes, my
Yes.
friend. This isn't looking good so far. This isn't looking good so far for the Alouettes. Good God, I didn't mean to fucking scare me in the eyes. Don't do that. Don't do that. You look like a librarian in a horror movie. Oh God, don't lower the glasses. It makes it worse. That brings us to the linebackers.
Which is their bread and butter.
Which is their bread and butter. This is true. Start naming them, boy.
Tyrese Beverett.
Starting Sam linebacker.
Jeffrey Kant Roku.
The backup middle linebacker.
Alexandre Gagnon.
Backup will linebacker.
Tyrell Richards.
Do not see him on here, so either injured, practice roster, or not on the team.
And Darnell Sankey.
Starting middle linebacker.
And that's it.
I see, because
Richards only played 8 games last year.
Because Cosby was their starting.
And they released
linebacker.
him.
And then Wall was his backup.
And he's no longer on the team either.
Okay, not bad. You keep 2 out of the 3, but did they bring in any key linebacker pieces from somewhere else?
Those are the only ones. They only list 5 on their team.
I feel like I'm just watching a team just bleed out. Like I'm thinking like that Linkin Park song. I dig it out just to dig it till I blow it away. And then, I bleed it out. It's a good song. Anyways, shall we look at the secondary now?
All of what? 2, 4, 6, 8 people? Sure.
They have 8 people.
Yeah. Nate Boschman.
They have 8 fucking people for 5 positions. Oh God.
6 because you classify as Sam linebacker as possible DB.
Sometimes, yeah, I'm just looking at the main 5. But here, who did you say? Sorry.
Nate Boschman.
Either
he's 22, so most likely he's 22, so most likely a rookie. Okay.
Okay.
Lorenzo Burns.
Nothing. Don't see him here.
Oh my God. Marc Antoine Dequoy.
There you go. Starting safety.
Okay. Cabin Anto.
That was their right side corner.
Arthur Hamlin.
I don't see him on here, but I do recognize that name. Hold on a second. Arthur Hamlin.
So he was drafted 3rd round last year, so he played 12 games.
Okay. So he just I guess didn't play the game that I'm looking at the depth chart here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taiwan Mullen. Who's a rookie. Yeah, he's a rookie. Najee Murray.
Actually, Hamlin is on the depth chart here. He's the backup safety. Sorry. But not the guy you just said.
Yeah, because Najee Murray only played 11 games last year, so chances are he is probably on the injured list.
Okay.
And last but not least, Wesley Sutton.
Oh, there you go. There's you got a starting defensive back.
So that's
on the left side.
2 of 5, 3 of 5.
The Montreal Alouettes are starting a fucking elementary school roster. Oh my! Like it's funny. If only there was like a farm team for CFL teams. Like Realistically,
I mean,
if
technically,
the Montreal Alouettes were the Winnipeg Jets, they're basically they're the Manitoba Moose this year. Like half the
technically, your practice squad is your taxi squad.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about this team. I don't feel great about this team. Like,
God.
I'm not going to say that it's terrible, but that's a lot of question marks. Like, Rick, I might feel better about the Red Blacks than I do the Alouettes this year. I don't know, man. What are you thinking?
Oh, and don't forget, they also have David Dallaire and Jacob Mason as their fullbacks, Jose Maltos as their kicker, and Joseph Zima as their punter.
I'm adjusting a ranking I did earlier. The Hamilton Tiger Cats ceiling has went from second to first because I'm realizing how much some of the East is, how much worse the Alouettes are.
Oh, so everyone, you just heard Carter saying, I'm not crazy for saying Hamilton's possibles ceiling is first.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as far as to say that it's
I'm not saying
incredibly
that it will
likely.
happen, I'm just saying possible.
But I can see it now. I can see the vision. Floor and ceiling for the Alouettes. My floor is fourth. My ceiling is second. And I think that's generous. What do you think?
Here's the thing with the East is everything determined by what happens with other teams. Because if Toronto's defense doesn't rebound, you could say they could be a possibly top 3.
Well, can you give your floor and ceiling first, and then afterwards we'll do our rankings?
So floor, I could see them third.
Could you see them dropping to fourth? Could you see them dropping down to fourth?
I mean, if everyone else in the division does well, it's quite possible. I mean, everything lays on Davis Alexander's shoulders. If Davis Alexander does garbage and McLeod Bethel Thompson can't steer the ship straight, you might as well just everyone jump off the boat and just sink or swim.
Yeah. So, and ceiling?
Are we? What's that?
And what's your ceiling?
If Davis can get his act together and their defense doesn't do as bad with the receivers that they have, it's quite possible first, but I'm gonna say second just because ceiling is gonna be 2 just because there's so many question marks, especially at running back.
This is hard.
And quarterback and defense.
Okay. I'm ready to do our
standings.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to go first with 5 or do you want me to go first with 5?
You mean with 4 because it's the East.
Oh yeah, that's right, 4, yeah.
I think I'm going to go first as I have a condition.
Ooh.
So at 4th, I have the Montreal Alouettes.
Okay.
However, my prediction here, Rick, is that the Montreal Alouettes will make the playoffs and play the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the West semifinal.
As a crossover.
I think that this could be the year we get an East crossover. After going through these teams, I can see it. Because the receiving core for this team is very good. The rest of the team is kind of shaky, if I'm being completely honest here. I see Rick got kicked out of the video. Or the stream. I don't know why it did that, but that's okay. We got
Can
Rick
you not
back
see
here.
me?
No, I got you back here. I sent you the new link. We're
Yeah,
good.
so you're saying this receiving core on this team.
Yeah, this receiving core is very, very good. The rest of this team has regressed significantly. A lot of unknowns here. Now, when I say fourth, I could easily see them being second, easily. But because this is a team that was just fantastic last year, seriously. And got them the wins that they needed. But I see a lot of change here, a lot of change, and not a lot of good change. And a lot of rookies, which is not on its face bad. It's just unknown. And so I don't have the certainty to place this team higher than fourth, but I have the certainty that I'm certain that this team will make the playoffs, whether that is in a third spot, second spot, or if they drop to fourth, they'll do well enough to make the crossover because of how close 3, 4, and 5 in the West are going to be. Because I think they're all going to be grabbing points from each other, and it'll cancel out to where a crossover east into west can happen. Rick, number 4.
Because I already have predicted my Grey Cup, so I'm gonna say
Number 4 in the East.
I'm gonna say Montreal as well.
Okay.
Now here comes the big question for me. So I see, because there's so many questions on Toronto's defense, I see Toronto as 3. So they'll still make the playoffs. But just because there's so many missing pieces, it's hard to predict. And people can say, well, they did well in preseason. Well, preseason's preseason. Like, preseason doesn't count.
Okay.
And the good thing is, this week we see Montreal play Toronto, so we'll get.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know my third place prediction?
Ottawa.
I also have Toronto.
Oh,
I do. Shall I give my second place prediction?
sure.
I have Hamilton
Ooh, okay.
at second. I think first is possible. I think realistically, second is more likely. But Toronto, again, I don't see Toronto. I put Toronto at 3. Not only do I not see Toronto falling out of a playoff spot, I don't see them falling out of an East Division playoff spot.
No. So here's the thing. So I have the opposite of you,
Of course you do.
and I have Ottawa in second, only because when I was watching this is when I'm talking about the first preseason game. Like and I know people are going to say, well, preseason games don't really matter, blah, 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 blah. But when you have your starters, like, let me pull up this game first because I want to see what the actual breakdown was of this. So, in the first, so we kept them under 17 points the whole game.
Yeah.
Our starters were in there until the end of the third quarter, or halfway through the third. So, the potential for our defense is there. Now, if they can put it together and everything, that's a whole different story. But if you give them enough playing time and gel, I think it's potentially there.
Yep. which means that you have Hamilton at first. And
I
at
do.
first, I have the Ottawa Redblacks. I think.
So the question is,
besides maybe Hamilton, they have improved the most out east. Besides Hamilton.
okay. So the question to you is, I know that yesterday you said you had Saskatchewan beating Edmonton and Winnipeg beating Saskatchewan. Do you have Toronto beating Hamilton or Hamilton beating Toronto?
Whoa, sorry. For what? Sorry.
We're talking about playoffs.
In the event of a playoffs, you're asking if I have what?
Do you have Toronto beating Hamilton or Hamilton beating Toronto?
This is like a friendship test.
No, I'm just trying to get to see who you'd have against Winnipeg in the Grey Cup final.
I have Toronto winning that game.
Okay, so then you have Toronto and Ottawa.
Yep.
So then
I have Toronto winning that game.
Okay, so you're having a repeat of last year.
I have a Grey Cup rematch with Toronto coming from the 3rd seed. I would rather play against Hamilton. Trust me, I'd love to play against Hamilton if we could do that.
So, with me saying of the whole Saskatchewan in the previous video, so this is going to be the year that we end the dreadful, pardon my French, everyone, cover your ears, the fucking 99 dreadful, and I'm going with my guns. People can call me out of left field. I'm agreeing with David Sanchez of TSN. Hamilton's winning the freaking Grey Cup this year.
Hamilton does look good.
And the reason why Hamilton will win the Grey Cup is because whoever we play in the Grey Cup is going to feel the Kenny Lawler effect from 2024 when he had 3 touchdowns in the West Final against Saskatchewan.
Wish I saw that in the Grey Cup. Wish I saw that in the Grey Cup, Kenny. I don't have anything else to say, Rick. We've been going 2 hours.
I have a few things left to say.
Okay.
So, on the channel, on Thursday, we will be doing a live watch-along between the Ottawa and the Sask game.
That's right. We'll be live streaming the first game of the season, Saskatchewan versus Ottawa. And then also coming out on either Wednesday night or Thursday, probably Thursday morning, will be...
whenever Carter gets out of bed.
will be the preview of week 1. I know it's coming a little bit later than ideal, but it's just kind of us maneuvering around our schedules, and that tomorrow I may, on the Nolan Hockey Podcast, might be streaming game 1 of the Stanley Cup final. We'll have to see.
So in other words, he's going to say, Rick, are you still up at 1 o'clock in the morning? Do you want to do the East preview?
Yeah, goddamn right. I will be doing, the week 1 preview, that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Saturday, because we are on the road on the Ticats Talk Network, I'm going to be doing a live stream of the Canada-Calgary game.
The Hamilton-Calgary game, not the Canada-Calgary game.
Oh, sorry, the Hamilton-Calgary game. You're like...
And if you're a fan of pro wrestling, I will be streaming WWE Money in the Bank on the Nolan Hockey Podcast, and potentially NXT and AAA Worlds Collide. So,
I guess that one's before.
That one's at 3 o'clock, and Money in the Bank is at like
same arena,
6 or 7.
different.
Different arena, both in LA though.
Oh, okay.
Same city.
That would suck if you tried to make both.
You should ask Chad Gable then. He's wrestling in both as Chad Gable and then later as El Grande Americano.
But the thing is that I'm sure when he wrestles as El Grande, it'll be later on in the evening, and when he wrestles in the NXT, it will be earlier in the day. Like, well, probably like one of the first 2 matches.
I wouldn't say so, considering I think he's in the main event of Worlds Collide because he's going against Del Vikingo for the AAA world title.
But what I'm saying is there's going to be at least a good few hours in between for him
Yeah,
to
no,
rest and him to
WWE
drive.
will schedule it in a way to make sure that he can make both events. But I'm not. But it won't be easy. Wrestling 2 matches in the same day sounds hard. But
Hey, I mean, Bret Hart did it back in '94.
yeah, but Bret Hart's built different.
Listen, this is an Olympic gold medalist you're talking about in Algrante.
Well, no, an Olympian, not a gold medalist. Olympian.
Right, sorry, an Olympian.
You're thinking of Kurt Angle. I understand the comparison. There is definitely a comparison to be made. But anyways, though, we're getting off topic. That's all we have to talk about for football. So make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you guys are listening to this on Spotify, make sure you leave us 5 stars. We appreciate all your support. Rick, anything else, or shall I wrap it up?
Nothing for me.
Peace, love, and positivity to all you wonderful people at home. Make sure you guys leave comments down below in the comment section, your predictions, and we will see you guys next time.